Hello and welcome to From the South, teleSur's daily news show. We start off in Latin America, where in Colombia, a new peace deal signed by the Colombian government and the FARC rebels will not modify a controversial part of the accord that gives the FARC 10 congressional seats through 2026 or prevent rebel leaders from eventually being elected to political posts. President Juan Manuel Santos also said that the accord will not be integrated into Colombia's constitution and that the FARC will be required to present a complete inventory of its assets, which are to be destined for victim compensation. The modified accord also takes foreign magistrates off special peace tribunals and stipulates the FARC must turn in information about its involvement in the drug trade. Colombians in a peace camp sounded content with the new accord, but some still had questions. Vatican Representative Claudio Maria Celi at Venezuela's government opposition-mediated talks said the process is, quote, gaining strength and coming together. This after both sides reached tentative deals in the areas of elections and foreign aid after a scheduled meeting over the weekend. The government will now consider letting foreign donors provide food and medicine to the country. Both sides will also work together to name 2 new members to the 5-member National Election Board, the CNE, which currently holds supporters of the Chavista government. The next meeting has been scheduled for December 6th. Meanwhile, President Nicolas Maduro has rejected the suggestion of early elections. This comes after Saturday's talks, where opposition representatives issue the ultimatum that they would remain in the mediated talks until dates for the recall referendum and national elections are set. The recall referendum had been suspended about a month ago after discrepancies were found in the signature collection process. The suspension sparked massive opposition protests across the country. President Maduro, as well as the National Electoral Council, has stated that the referendum will take place as requested, but according to the rule of law. There will be a time to define the circumstances and situations. No one should get obsessed with electoral processes that are not in the Constitution. In those sectors that want to continue insisting on impossible procedures for Venezuela, I say calm down. The Constitution and the electoral agenda are very clear. A priest whose disappearance sparked protests in an eastern Mexican town was found alive on Sunday, but with injuries consistent with torture, according to the Catholic Church. Father Jose Luis Sanchez Ruiz had last been seen on Thursday. The next day, the doors to his church in Catemaco had signs of forced entry. His disappearance sparked fears that he had suffered the same fate as 2 other priests who were found dead in Veracruz in September, shortly after their disappearance. Mexico is one of the most violent places for priests in the world, with 15 having been killed since President Enrique Peña Nieto took office in 2012. In international news, according to the United Nations, 2016 will very likely be the hottest year on record, and a new high for the 3rd year in a row. 2016 would be the warmest since records began in the 19th century. This means that 16 of the 17 hottest years on record will have been in this century. Swedish prosecutor Ingrid Iskren has begun questioning WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange at the Ecuadorian embassy in London. Assange is accused of raping a woman in Sweden in 2010, which he denies. Residents of a neighborhood in eastern Mosul are fleeing from the area as the fighting between Iraqi government troops and militants from the Islamic State group intensifies. The fighting is leaving residents feeling in constant threat even after army advances in their neighborhoods. Scuffles erupted between police and a group of refugees attempting to cross into Croatia from Serbia. A group of around 100 refugees were not allowed to enter the European Union state and continue their way toward Western Europe after marching for days from Serbian capital Belgrade. India has announced new measures to ease the cash crunch faced by millions of their citizens after the government's decision to abolish large denomination notes last week. This was to uncover billions of dollars in undeclared wealth. The government will install new micro-cash machines across the country and has asked banks to waive off transaction charges on debit and credit cards. A strong new 6.2 earthquake rattled New Zealand's South Island hours after a more powerful 7.8 quake killed at least 2 people. The earthquake prompted a tsunami warning that sent thousands fleeing to higher ground. And finally, the largest and brightest full moon in nearly 7 decades, called the supermoon, shone bright over Beijing, the capital of China. According to NASA, the large moon, which astronomers said was closer to Earth than at any time since 1948, appeared up to 14% bigger and 30% brighter than usual. And that's all for From the South. For more on these and other stories, you can visit our website, telesurtv.net/English.